I will, hold on, I will call us to order and take my proxy back, Larry, before you do any more damage with it.
Okay. I will do roll call for you, Mr. Chair. So EC Bell.
Here.
Larry Hampton.
Here.
Melissa Daly.
Here.
Carol Sherwood.
Here.
And Shannon Eoff is absent. Before we get to the election of chair and vice chair, I'd like to introduce Melissa Daly. So she is our newest commissioner appointed by council. So Melissa, would you like to take a moment and introduce yourself to the rest of the committee, and the committee can introduce themselves to you?
Sure. Yeah. So my name's Melissa Daly. I have lived in Newberg since 2012. I've worked professionally in affordable housing since probably like 2006, and in a lot of different capacities. I'm currently working for the Housing Services Department and Housing Authority of Washington County. I've been recently on the Citizens Advisory Committee for the middle housing. I did participate in the group that came up with the list of 45 things for the city to do for housing. I'm also on the school board budget committee for this part of town that I live in. I think I actually worked with you, Larry, on the first project for the playground at Edwards. So yeah, I've gotten involved. I have a 13-year-old daughter. My husband used to be the director of the cultural center. He works for a camp with kids who have type 1 diabetes now. So yeah, that's about it for me.
Okay. EC, you want to introduce yourself?
EC Bell. I have had the privilege of serving on this committee for the better part of, I think, 4 or 5 years now. And pastor of Chehalis Valley Presbyterian, worked with Habitat for Humanity and Newberg Fish over the years, and really excited and encouraged to see the progress that's being made in creating space in Newberg through this committee and other work, Melissa, work that you've been doing as well, to create space for housing diversity in our community. So welcome, and thank you for leaning in this area, as you're already leaning in several others.
Carol?
I'm Carol Sherwood, and I'm probably the least qualified to be on this committee. I am a retired nursing professor from George Fox and currently living in Friendsview. I've been a Newberg resident for going on to my 15th year. And I have a son who has been involved in affordable housing that's what he works in, for about 35 years. So what I know, I've learned vicariously through him, and that doesn't speak well probably for him because I don't know as much as I should. But I care a lot about the people who need affordable housing. So that's my main interest for being here.
Okay. Larry?
I, again, work for the school district and in operations and facilities. Have been on this committee for a few years anyway, and have been on several city committees, some because of my job and some because of my work with Habitat as well. I've been the president of Habitat Board in Newberg for several years. Seems to be in perpetuity, but someday I won't be.
I'm sure it was a lifetime appointment.
Yeah, there's good work going on there too, and then also other connection, also involved with North Valley Friends, which we're doing some tiny home things, and so have coordinated a little bit with the city and trying to push the limits a little bit on what can be done there to serve folks in the community as well. So,
okay. Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back over to you for election of chair and vice chair.
Yes, my apologies. It doesn't matter how long you're on Zoom. There's always a time in the meeting when you're the person who doesn't unmute themselves, even as you're encouraging others to unmute themselves. So that was my turn. Hopefully I won't do it too many times during the meeting. We will first entertain nominations for chair and vice chair. The only qualification I would say is this. I'm not sure how long I am for Oregon. I am retiring as the pastor of Chehalem Valley Presbyterian in May of this year. And so I don't know what that means as far as my next place of location. So I don't know that the chair, or if I continue as chair, just Larry, knowing that chances are you may have to take responsibilities, or might, sometime in the third or fourth quarter of 2021. But aside from that caveat, I do enjoy serving, and I'm happy to serve. But there may be, I may not completely finish this term should I retire elsewhere. So with that said, nominations for, and let's not forget that that somebody's missing, which means I think somebody's being, nominated for vice chair or chair right there. Nominations from the floor for vice chair. Larry, are you willing to serve again, or are you willing to serve again as vice chair?
I am, but I don't want to preempt anybody else either.
Well said.
I think you would be great.
Well, Carol, this is your third year.
It is. I can chair a meeting, but I'm not as well versed as you guys are in what's going on. So that's.
Well, the good news is that, Doug's the one who knows what's going on and leads the meetings. And so our only role is
All we have to do is ask for approval and seconds.
That's about all that I do these days, is just make sure that the meeting stays somewhat in line with Robert's. So that we move through the agenda. But the substance is Doug telling us what we have opportunities to do and how we can advocate, and us responding. And so, yeah, I think
I'll accept the nomination then for vice chair.
All right. So
did we have actually a nomination for chair?
No, we're going to do that next.
I nominate EC Bell for chair.
Oh, I nominate you, because then EC won't leave.
All right. See, so there we go.
Chair seat.
I need a second for Carol. Melissa, can I get a nod? There we go.
I'll second for Carol being vice chair.
All
So
right.
who made the motion?
I
did once I found that Carol was willing. So Carol expressed a willingness. EC nominated, and it was seconded by Melissa.
Melissa. Okay.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. All right. Now, nominations for chair of the 21 year.
I nominate Larry Hampton.
Second.
Whatever.
And so are you comfortable? You're not going to tell us that if nominated you will not run, if elected you will not serve, right? Good.
I won't do that.
Or tell us that you need to spend more time with your family. And
I appreciate it. All right.
You don't want to spend time with me.
Any other nominations? I should ask that for Carol. Seeing no other nominations, all those in favor of Larry Hampton for chair for 21, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Brilliant. Mr. Chairman, the meeting is yours.
Oh, okay. So we're moving on to public comments, which, as far as I know, there's nobody here. Doug, is there anybody that you know of?
Sue, anybody out there in the waiting room? Zero. No public comments.
Okay. So moving on, notice of funding availability.
Okay. So I'm just going to briefly say there are two things that we have to get finished for business today, because I know everybody's schedule by 3:00. We got to be done and out of here. So I will try to be as expeditious as possible. So the NOFA at your meeting in October, I said I would bring that forward. We did not do a full NOFA in the last fiscal year. That was because everybody was working on the CET program. So I brought it forward. We have $45,864 available. So that is split between $22,932 for the competitive loan program. So there is the RFP that is in your packet. The other $22,932 is split between and or combined between the time-sensitive loan and the rehabilitation loan program. The next category is the time-sensitive grant program, and so that one has $19,110. So in your memo, I asked the question, or asking the question, do you want to do the time-sensitive grant? In the past, the commission has talked about if we grant money and it goes away, we lose it, we never get it back. Because this was a finite fund. The only way we've had a little bit more money than we did a year ago is just because of interest earnings, and we haven't spent any in the last year. Last spring, we did a NOFA for just the time-sensitive grant, and that was related to the Veterans of Foreign War, who had approached the commission about funds to match their fundraising to do ADA ramps for manufactured homes and other homes. So that might be one reason why to do the time-sensitive grant. So overall, the package is there. All the criteria for the competitive loan program haven't changed. I just changed the calendar year. And all the other information is essentially all the same, just the financial numbers have been updated. So staff's recommendation would be that the Affordable Housing Commission recommend the City Council accept the NOFA documents and authorize these solicitations.
Okay, any questions or comments about that from anybody?
So to clarify, keeping the time-sensitive grant gives us the opportunity to respond to requests like the veterans. And so even though, that's the upside of keeping the time-sensitive grant in the NOFA. Am I understanding?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions or anything?
So in approving this, all of those will go forward in the NOFA then?
Yes, all would go forward in the NOFA. So your recommendation, whatever that would be today, I will take forward to the City Council on February 16th. I've basically got the staff report drafted up. I just need to plug in a few numbers, and then they would review it. And then if they agree, then they would authorize me to go out and do that solicitation, which I would start around the 1st of March. And it would run through May 31st of 2021. On the budget side of that, we won't expend the money. More than likely, we would not expend the money in this fiscal year. If we did get applications, we would be reviewing them in your July timeframe. So I take the money we have and rebudget it for 21-22.
Have you had potential applicants contact you showing interest in these funds?
Occasionally we have. It's just the amount is so small, is that for the competitive loan, there's not really enough there to deal with the bridge financing. I mean, we could deal with some pre-architectural or engineering components of that. I should say that I've had about 4 or 5 different multifamily developers approach me in the last month looking for opportunities within Newberg. And they've all asked what kind of programs we have. And I've indicated, well, we have this program. It doesn't have a lot of funds available, but we have to go through this process to get authorization to do the solicitation first.
So I guess would entertain a motion to approve moving forward with the NOFA.
Mr. Chairman, move that the committee recommend to the city, what do you call it? What are those people called? Commissioners?
City Council.
Council, the approval of the NOFA as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. If no other discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed? Nope. All right.
Okay. Next up is the housing needs analysis, housing strategy, and the public and semi-public land analysis. So I've shared with you in other meetings, we've been working on this project. It's now coming to culmination. So we had an ad hoc committee that was advising the consultants and staff on all of this. And so the housing needs analysis is very similar to the one we did in 2019. What was updated was the buildable lands inventory and the population forecast numbers. Our population forecast was a little over 2,800 people less than it was in the 2019 document. That drove down our need for additional land. And so if you go through that entire large document, which has a lot of good background information if you're interested, is that what it shows us is we have a surplus of 31 acres of low density residential land, a deficit of 37 acres of medium density, and a deficit of 44 acres of high density. And those surpluses and deficits include the land need for public and semi-public uses. And so as I put in the memo, there's about 28.5 acres of land for municipal services in residential areas. And there's about 60 acres of parkland that's needed in residential areas. And there's about 32 acres of semi-public uses. And semi-public uses are faith-based organizations and nonprofit organizations. So the numbers are a little bit different than where we were in the 2019 document, where we were showing about a total of 107 acres of deficiency, not including the public, semi-public. Now those numbers have changed. And again, it's really driven by the population forecast. We are projected to grow slower over the next 20 years than the numbers showed back in the 2019 document. I got the full document there. If you like to read it, I would encourage you to read through it. Like I said, it has a lot of really interesting data and facts and so forth in it. The companion piece of that is the housing strategy. And again, we updated tables and charts. And I took to the city council on November 2nd, the housing work program. And so that has been woven into the housing strategy document as well. So all those things tie together. So staff is recommending that the Affordable Housing Commission recommend City Council accept the 2021 housing needs analysis, which includes the public and semi-public land analysis and the housing strategy.
I so move. Why don't those any questions?
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, again, is there any discussion, any other questions or anything with that? And seems like lots of things we do are kind of, there's not a lot of other input. So all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Nope. All right.
Okay, from here on, it's just updates. So construction excise tax went through 2 hearings at City Council on November 1st and November 16th. Council ended up passing that. EC participated in all of that. So they did adopt it. It went into effect on December 16th of 2020 with the implementation to begin no sooner than January 2nd. We got all of our permit software system all reconfigured to accommodate that new revenue stream. And so we started collecting funds as of January 2nd of 2021. We're predicting that we will generate about $150,000 in that 6-month period, January to the end of June. There was one change. There was a lot of conversation at the commission about making payments on your construction excise tax, and based upon legal opinion, we were informed that no, we could not do that. That the state rules said no, it had to be paid at the time of building permit issuance. So we pulled that piece of it out, and I went through and renumbered everything accordingly. So we are now off and running on the construction excise tax. Now, this is going to lead, and I brought this up before, is some restructuring, because this commission will have the responsibility to review and make recommendations to the city council on how we partner and use those funds. Right now, the commission was established by resolution, and I will be talking with legal counsel about actually putting this commission and incorporating it into the municipal code with our planning commission and traffic safety commission and so forth, and then expanding that roles and responsibilities. So you have your administrative rules and policies for the trust fund, and I have to create the documentation for the construction excise tax portion as well.
And the
Any questions?
tax went through at what percent?
1%.
1%?
On all new residential, commercial, and industrial. If you have an expansion of a residential home that's less than 100,000, you do not have to pay the construction excise tax. If you are producing workforce housing and you agree to the deed restriction, you only have to pay 50% of the required construction excise tax. If you are building affordable housing that is 80% or less, and you agree to the deed restrictions, you pay no construction excise tax.
What if you're building like in a big addition on a school?
School is exempt from construction excise tax.
That's what I
by
thought.
statute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, then. Moving on.
DLCD.
So just
AC?
quick question of clarification, so that before this commission could begin to spend whatever revenue comes in, there will need to be legal changes to our structure and our mandate. But we're the natural place for that development to happen. Is that my understanding?
That is correct. Middle housing. And so Melissa is chairing that. So she's fully engrossed in all issues middle housing. So we've gone through and had 3 committee meetings already. They've got code audit information. Their last meeting, they got the draft of the proposed code revisions. They also saw the material related to some design guidelines that are allowed for, triplexes and quads and cottage clusters and townhomes. One of the big issues that has come up is about parking. And we hear every meeting, we hear about parking. So the issue is with these duplex, tris, quads, it's 1 space per unit. So that does mean that's all the more the city could require. Developer could choose to do more, but that then pushes parking out onto the public streets. We did a community open house, virtual. We only had 5 people attend that, unfortunately, for that one. But then we did the community survey where we had 192 respondents. And so all of that information is available on the Middle Housing website, so you can see it. Wide ranging from full support, yes, we should be doing this, to how bad planning staff is. So, and everything in between. There's lots of good information there. So we're capturing all of that. And the committee will be meeting again on February 17th. We'll be looking at some final language for the duplex. We have to do the duplex first. We have to have that adopted by June 30th of 2021. And then we'll come back in the fall of 2021 to finish up the triplex, quad, cottage clusters, and townhomes. Melissa, anything else you would like to add to that?
No, I mean, you summarized it pretty well. It does seem like it's parking, parking, parking.
Okay. Then the infrastructure-based time extension request, otherwise known as IBITR. Really awful acronym, IBITR. So we've shared with you before, we were looking at the area north of downtown, between downtown and the railroad tracks, and then south of downtown, down to the bypass between Hess Creek and Chehalen Creek. And so what we found is that in those areas, we had one infrastructure deficiency, and that was related to water and fire flow. We packaged all that up. We got it to council. Council accepted it. We got it submitted to DLCD by December 31st. I can proudly say yesterday, we received notification from DLCD that our application was determined complete. So that's good. Now it'll go up on their website and go through a 21-day comment period. And DLCD indicated that they would give us a final determination by April 25th of 2021. What we identified, there's about $6.5 million worth of water infrastructure to accommodate middle housing. The north area only had one small water issue. The other 8 are all in the south area, south of downtown. So $6.5 million, our engineers worked up a timeline and an estimate to do those improvements, which would take us out to fiscal year 28-29. DLCD generally started with, a 1-year extension. So we'll have to wait and see what kind of feedback we get now that we've been determined our application is complete. So more to come on that one. If you want to see what we submitted to the state, I provided the link in your memo, and you can read to your heart's content. For the work program, again, I shared that with council back on November 2nd. They made just a couple of small adjustments, and that was moving the time horizon forward, closer in time, related to tiny homes, RVs, and car camping. So that was okay. So I've included that in your packet as well. So we now have a 5-year work program that's laid out. We did have some additional revenue that was coming in this year. I've got budget authorization to hire a housing planner to do of those 42 to 45 housing tasks, which we've broken down into 4 to 5 a year to be able to work on. So I'm hoping to start that recruitment process next month for that, have somebody on board in the spring. So thank you for all your heavy lifting through the summer and fall on that work program. I know it was a lot of back and forth between the commission and council and a number of iterations to come up with that. And we know that that work program will change. It'll change annually because things will come out of the legislature, and we'll come out of the legislature and have new mandates and timelines to meet. And the community will come up with other ideas of things that we should do as well. Any questions on that? Okay, moving along as we're at 246, vertical housing. So we're continuing that program development in the downtown area. We've gone through and met with all of the taxing districts and given them a briefing. This week, we will be sending them their official required statutory letter, which they will then have 60 days to review and take in front of their respective boards and let us know if they're going to opt in or opt out of that program. So again, this is a partial tax abatement for vertical mixed use housing, ground floor commercial, and then housing above. And you can get a 20% reduction in your property taxes for the first 4 floors of residential. And you can get some additional tax abatement if you do affordable housing at 80% or less. So we're hoping to get all of that stuff in front of Planning Commission and Council in late spring and early summer. Questions? Okay, Riverfront Master Plan. Council adopted all of the land use regulations for comp plan map, zoning, and development code changes. And they did that on November 16th. So that ordinance took effect on December 16th. We've updated all of our respective documents. I will be initiating one more change to our development code, and that's on our annexation process. Now that we have the new mixed employment zone and cleaning up that piece of it. As a companion to all of this, we are updating all of our functional plans. Transportation, water, wastewater, and storm. So transportation, that one will be going to City Council on February 16th for its public hearing. The others will be in the spring timeframe, and those will get in front of City Council for their review. On the transportation side, we added some new elements, that being the Esplanade, River Street improvements south of the bypass is another component. Winooski Road, going from the bypass out to Highway 219. So there's a few changes in there. And those projects added about $11 million worth of multimodal transportation improvements. We are not proposing to adjust our system development charges with this proposal. We are doing the evaluation on an urban renewal program. And so we'll wait and see where that lands later in 2021. And if that does get approved, then we will come back and look at the SDC component of the transportation system. And hopefully urban renewal will be able to pick up a number of those projects.
Doug, the changes to Winooski, does that affect the realignment of the end of Winooski so the light can be put in at 219, or is that separate?
That's separate. We stop at Sandoz. And so the ODOT project starts just about at Sandoz and then realigns Winooski down onto 219 across from Wilsonville Road. So,
Okay.
So that's also in our transportation system plan already, that realignment project.
And I'm assuming this doesn't take out any housing or anything in it.
No, it does not.
And
I can say with the riverfront plan is that we did, through those changes, we added the capacity for 70 additional residential units. And most of those units are in high density and medium density. And hopefully when we get to a point, the mixed commercial down on the riverfront, if we can get the vertical housing authorized in the downtown, I'd like to do that same for that mixed commercial properties down in the riverfront area.
Yeah.
And is the mill site moving forward, or?
Yes, the mill site is being demolished as we are having this meeting. It has been for a couple of weeks. If you were to drive down River Street today, go underneath the bypass bridge and look to your left, and you'll see the waste paper building. Well, as of last Thursday, was about 3/4 of the way torn down. And other buildings are in the process of being disassembled as well.
And will it be beautiful when it's done?
It will be a very large asphalt and gravel site when it's done.
Oh, lovely.
Prepping it for redevelopment.
I was hoping for something more pretty.
Well, eventually.
We have to get the buildings to make it look
Yeah.
pretty. That'll bring the landscaping and the trees and
Also,
all those other things.
The asphalt is not permanent with what you,
It depends upon how the redevelopment, they may be able to repurpose portions of it, or the whole thing might get torn up eventually. We'll have to wait and see.
Not to go too much further down this rabbit hole, sir, but Doug, have environmental tests come back that there should not be anything that's going to slow the project based on what's in the dirt?
My conversations with the property owner is that there are not significant environmental hazard issues on that site.
Wow, that's surprising.
Well, it's a different process, and this question comes up a lot. It was a dry emulsion process, not a liquid. And so it brings about different things. I mean, yeah, but it's an industrial site, and so you do have oil tanks and PCVs and things like that. But what they've told me, it's not significant.
Oh, good.
Moving on quickly, urban renewal, kind of touched on that. So that advisory committee's been working. We had a meeting last night. We're working on a short list. So we had a list of projects that total about $117 million. And they're working to winnow that list down to around $53 to $55 million. So they did a significant cut last night, and so we'll be repackaging that, and they will be back for their next meeting on February 22nd. Affordable housing was a topic that was brought up last night about having infrastructure in place to help support and encourage affordable housing both in the riverfront area and in the downtown area. House Bill 4006. Several of you participated in that. EC and Melissa were there.
Sorry, I meant to. I just
I won't shame Larry or Carol on that one. You have personal lives. So HB 4006, we did our community meeting back on December 16th. We had 11 participants, so that's really not bad for a virtual meeting in middle of winter just before the holidays. Shared a PowerPoint with people. We got feedback. We cataloged all of that information. We put together our report, our permitting and production report, and all of that material was submitted to DLCD and Oregon Housing Community Services on Monday morning, and with an acknowledgement that it had been received. So we beat the February 1st deadline by a week. Woohoo! So we're good to go. I did get a comment back from Kim Travis at OHCS, and her comment in summary was like, well, you had a productive virtual meeting, and there was actually parts, and there's a lot of good information here. So, okay, thanks, Kim, I appreciate it. I'm not sure what other communities are doing given the COVID pandemic and trying to fulfill their requirements. So that, other than the community development block grant, very last item. Council held their first hearing and authorized, so we are applying for a CDBG grant to Business Oregon. Very similar program we did for manufactured homes in 2016, except for this time the grant request is $500,000 instead of 400,000. 2016 the max was 400,000. Now it's 500. So we're working with the Housing Authority again on that project. We're off, and Darcy, for those of you who remember, Darcy Reynolds worked with us last time, so she and I are coordinating. So she's working to put together the application packet. It opens up on February 1st and closes on April 30th. So we're doing a lot of pre-work that will help our scoring, giving their new scoring matrix that is in place. So that's where we're at on that. And that is all I have, Mr. Chair.
You probably need a drink of something now after fast talking through all of that stuff. I'm not saying, an adult drink. I'm just saying even water.
Well, after I get off of this meeting, I go into another one, and then I have another one this evening. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
All right. So
This is just a point of information. I'm assuming probably Doug, you're aware, and Larry also, that Friendsview has a duplex that they're seeking to move, and are looking for someone who might, I assume, want to buy it. But they're moving one and keeping it on campus, but the other two they're wanting to find some place to put it. Nice homes.
Yes, I've been talking with Todd
Okay.
a lot about moving the houses and the duplexes and so forth.
Yeah.
Trying to find a location for where they could go.
Good.
Okay, well, coming up on 3, our next meeting is April 27th, 1:30. It'd be nice to actually start at 1:30, so we'll see. Life happens, but
I will put it on my calendar.
I will send all of you an email to your personal and to your city email accounts, or in Larry's case, to his city email and his school district.
yes.
And list out the meeting dates so you can get them on your calendar.
Thank you.
Good. Thanks everybody for doing what you need to do to get here so we could actually get through this, and especially the 2 things that needed to be voted on. So, all right. Well, again, thanks, and we'll see you when we see you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.